In the previous episode, we talked about the Flexbox layout. Now we're going to talk about the grid layout. Some people are more fan of the Flexbox layout and others are fan of the grid. I personally use both. But those are two important layout methods that you need to learn. So let's get started. Right now, I just have the title with those Tailwind classes. I'm going to create a div, which is going to be the parent div, and I'm going to add 8 other children div. And they are going to have a text, which is going to be box1, okay? And let me add some classes. They're going to have a class of emerald. They're going to have the background emerald 500. Let's change the text to white. Let's align the text to the center. And let's add a padding to all sides of 5. Okay, so there it is. We have our first div right there. I'm going to copy this 8 times because we need 8 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I need one more. And I'm just going to change the name of the box right here. This is not completely necessary, but I'm going to do it anyways. So it looks better. Very good. So we have a parent container and we have 8 children container inside. So now let's get started with the grid layout. If you want to add display grid, you just add grid and that's it. So as you can see, one of the main differences with Flex is that when you add grid, this is apparently not going to change anything. Look, if we add Flex, we have a first change. They are put one next to each other. But when we add grid, this seems like nothing is working. But it is, so don't worry. So one of the best things or the most important features of the grid layout is that we can set the number of columns that we want. So for example, in this case, all the columns we only have one column by default, but we can change that. For example, I can say grid dash cols, that's for columns, and then you write the number of columns that you want. For example, I want 2. So as you can see, now we have 2 different columns. Probably it's not easy to distinguish when a box starts and when the other box finishes. So let's add a gap. Remember that we talked about this in the previous episode. So you can add a gap, say for the y-axis of 2. You see? So now we have it right there. And we can add a gap of horizontally of 2. And there it is. But instead of setting it like this, you can just use the shortcut and say gap 2. And that's it. It's the same result. So I'm just going to keep it like that. Probably too much space. I'm just going to add a gap of 1. And that's it. Voila. So as you can see, when you add grid and then you add the number of columns, this is going to be the behavior. Say you want to add 4. So there it is. We have 4 different columns. What if you add, for example, 3? We have 1, 2, and 3. But wait, what's going on here? We have this blank space. That space is there because we don't have 9 boxes. We only have 8. So that place is going to be, say, reserved in case there is another box. So if we add another one right here, it's going to be there. If you add another one, it's going to keep the number of spaces. All right? Pretty good. So basically, that's how grid works. So people are going to be changing. We're going to learn more about this in future episodes. For example, when my device is small, it's going to have 2 columns, or say 1. Then when it's medium, it's going to have 3. When it's large, it's going to have 4. So don't worry, we're going to learn all about it in future episodes. But for now, this is what I want you to understand. Pretty good. So something else I would like I would like to explain, sorry, is that sometimes if you add a height, in this case, this parent container doesn't have a height. I mean, it's a height of auto, but you can set the height, for example, say 80, and you see what happens. So when you're using grid and you add a height, then the items inside are going to stretch. They're going to stretch to be taking the height that you established. Probably I'm going to add a border so you can see it better. Border 2, border, color red, 500. So as you can see, if I take this out, this is not, I mean, they are taking the auto height of the container. But then if you change this, for example, to height 80, they're going to stretch. I didn't add a lot of padding, but they are going to stretch anyway. So if I add, for example, screen, they are going to stretch even more. It doesn't matter if I didn't set a lot of padding inside these boxes, they are going to stretch to take the whole parent's height. All right, good. That's just something interesting for you to know in case you want to know it. Let's just keep it like height 80. Finally, I want you to probably learn this other feature that's going to come in handy for you in the future, and it's the alignment of rows. So right here, this is the normal alignment, but you can put this, for example, content, and then you go, for example, center. So now this is taking 3 columns, but as you can see, the rows moved to the center. This property, it's important for you to understand, works only for rows. You can read more in the Tailwind documentation right here, okay? It says how rows are positioned. So, and the same thing, for example, if you want this to be at the end, content end. So this is how you can move the whole thing to anywhere you want. All right, I think that's it. Don't miss the next episodes where we are going to start learning about responsive design, and we are going to be just putting into practice all the things that we have learned so far. So, see you there.